My name is Tonya Curry, and this is the diary of a media monitor for 2024. 2024, you biscuit. You kept me on my toes, China. It's an ardent task, wrapping up 12 months of media, and this is the 10th anniversary of Diary of a Media Monitor. And after a decade of headlines, it's time to shut the door and rummage through the splinters of what has been 2024. The backdrop alone is terrifying, but we must start somewhere, even if it is in darkness. Hundreds of illegal miners still underground. Some of them are dying at Stilfontein. They're dragging their decomposing dead up a 2-kilometer drop from the darkness. There are children among them, slave labor and December. What a way to end the year. The single biggest story in South Africa this year was the Springboks. They won everything. If there was a trophy, we won it. We held it high above our heads. We kissed it before we brought it home to put it in a nice shiny cabinet. We are winners. 2024 galore. The cumulative biggest story would have to be the elections and the newly formed GNU. What a belter, hey? The country came out and sent all the political parties back to basics, back to 1994, back to work together or else. It's uncharted territory, but I like it. Viva South Africa, viva GNU. 2024 is our 1994. If you had to ask me what the most enduring story was this year and over the decade, it's our favorite guy, yours and mine, the man who's been there at the Beningin, Zuma, the never let go Puma.
I'm telling you.
In January 2024, we banged down the door, starting with an ICJ ruling as South Africa scored a major win for humanity. Drickus became a household name as he clobbered his way through the UFC, and Bafana got through to the AFCON finals. Wow, we were coming in hot. 2024, we banged down that door. It didn't last long, though, all that sport and freedom fighting. It was soon left behind when Ramaphosa addressed us at the historic SONA. Historic because it would be the last and the end of majority rule. We destroyed the ANC's foothold with SA Decides. It was ludicrous, and it was a time where we saw the birth of the MK Party, and I ignored it. In February, we saw the first of our kids die from food poisoning. Foodborne illnesses would reach pandemic proportions in our country. We would soon see hundreds of children fall victim to it. A war on spaza shops would follow later in the year. But at the very start of 2024, you and I happened to blink and we missed it. Food poisoning and spaza wars. Our hearts stopped because of pretty green eyes that spread across our timelines. Trafficked Jocelyn Smith. Ex-con turned politician Gayton McKenzie interviewed the child's mother who admitted to being on tick and had kept using the term, "I'm not going to lie to you," and then proceeded to lie through her teeth. We chased clothing and chaos in the region for nothing. She knew exactly where Jocelyn was because she had sold her. Today, the repugnant woman is sitting in jail, pregnant. This is also the first time we took ex-con turned politician Gayton McKenzie seriously. Gayton is my great surprise of the year. I'm the first to admit that I wasn't a fan, but as the days have rolled on, he stole our hearts. We watched him on diet, cancelling expensive superfans, being accountable. He shared his wealth and enthusiastically tackled the job like he was literally part of the boca. It's endearing. It's my South Africa. Yet still today, Jocelyn Smith is missing. She was Gayton's catapult. It's true, don't lynch me. Listen, at least we got our sport covered, hey? Damn, I'm cynical. I'm sorry, it doesn't get a lot better from here. 2024, I have kept score. My hometown made the 2024 media lineup. Sodwana's local fishing legend, John Matambu, and his boat were hijacked. John was murdered on the waters, and Fissa, the slimy perp, became the subject of a manhunt. South Africa caught Fissa. Our collective energy can corral this country into doing courageous feats. And then the cops released him. Repeatedly. He is back on the run, justice is a word, and fined Fissa. Jooste committed suicide. This after the legal dogs were chomping at his heels. He walked out of the front door and blew his brains out. South Africans remain skeptical that this is actually what happened, but we've also forgotten about it. So 2024, all conspiracies and gore. Liffman was assassinated. That's 2024. It kept firing more. Our Madam Speaker, Mapisa Ngukula, appeared in court for corruption for 4.5 million and then, holding on to a designer wig, hastily resigned. This is the very same Ngukula that opened the Phala inquiry and the very same Phala inquiry that we are seeing the impact of today as Ramaphosa bounces anxiously on his couch. This as the EFF push forward with his prosecution. 2024, Joshua Daw. Courtroom drama saw Ubaba doing the hokey-pokey with the legal system. Zuma's resilience has become more interesting, and he had the to and fro with Downer and Morn, which flopped, but that never stopped him, and neither did it stop Darley. The MK party became familiar with courtroom corridors too. Gleaning experience from a tedious 20-year-old Stalingrad tactical battle with Zuma, they knew they were in the hands of a puppet master. Unlike the true registered owner of MK Party, Jabulani Khumalo, he's still figuring out how he was played by the old man. MK started with stolen logos and registration battles that led to the accusations of ballot rigging and a battle with the IEC. It is astonishing how much chaos this 82-year-old Jacob can still cause. After his reign of decay, he's still more relevant today. Decades of decay and Groundhog Day. Elections hit like a live steam train. No one would have thought we'd be ready, but we were. It was free and fair, apparently, and MK stormed home to be the kingmaker across all parties, except they're so defunct that they can't even turn up to work. This left Ramaphosa to re-implement Mandela's brainchild, the Government of National Unity. Back to 1994 we bounced, and today we have Jumping John Steenhuisen in charge of agriculture, Freedom Front Plus's Groenewald in charge of correctional services, that's funny, Hlabisa, the head of the IFP, in charge of COCTA, and Songezo Zibi from the new party, Rise Mzansi, in charge of SCOPA. Helen Zille stomped around the GNU like Queen Elizabeth I and had regular headbuttings with Fikile, Minister of Alice Mbalula. She was hurling threats like hand grenades, but proved to be a particularly bad shot, and failed to admit that not only had the ANC suffered a hiding to nothing at the polls, but so had she. The DA hogged media headline, they burnt the flag, John Toy, and they positioned themselves with the Cape Party. They were going to do like a Cape exit, a Lego Cape Town Brexit. She misjudged the masses. John jumped to the wrong tune and the Moonshot Pact misfired. And Godzilla forgot that we unseated the ANC, no one else. The other parties that joined the pact were duped into standing against the ANC, and today they're all back with the ANC. That's my South Africa. And then there was the demise of the EFF. Julius was behaving like a megalomaniac and Ubaba was taking roll call. Something had to give. It was Floyd who became the turncoat, leaving a confused Julius still calling Floyd a brother from another mother. He also told the world that brother Floyd would always be welcome back in the EFF flock. 2 days later, Juju worked out that he'd been knifed and he came out frothing. But with that, the rats left the sinking ship. They all scurried to join Zoom and the gang, and poor Juju was left with Khaki Carl, who's not so khaki, in his red beret. All eyes are still on Ndlozi to jump, but it seems that there's still a game of cat and mouse amongst the red tide. Well, the red pool, a bit like Deadpool. 2024, shove it in the bottom drawer. In the second part of the year, the Ketang Wars began as mayors of Tshwane, Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg played ringa-rosies, and eventually they all fell down. We saw the horror that is our medieval healthcare system as the nation rose to help Tom London to get out of the Helen Joseph Hospital. He survived, no thanks to the health department, but he kicked open a wasp's nest, and public healthcare still cannot manage to exit the spotlight. What would 2024 be without Dricus du Plessis? I touched on him earlier, but we need more because it's 2024. He had a car crash interview early in the year, which started as a farm murder slogan, Hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie, now became a national anthem. No DNA, just RSA and a bunch of Springboks, Earbin and Time magazine's cover Sia, entered the ring to flank this fighter, turning UFC into a staple in South Africa. He wasn't the only sporting media comeback, as we saw Tyson meet Jake Paul in what can only be described as a rigged fight, boxing rings and other things. Lesufi and Razmataz faced off all year. He's another one who should make sure the cameras panned. Fakile has been brandished by Helen, set up by Cyril, slapped by Panyaza, but Mbax is still turning the other cheek. And that's Mbax for you, Razmataz, Fakile and Balula, Minister fear
My
for
head on the
all.
block. We fear for all.
The Israel-Hezbollah conflict, and we saw the worst of human behavior as a mass murderer, Netanyahu, took victims every minute of every day in Palestine. That wasn't enough. He stretched his long tentacles across the Middle East and Gulf and targeted Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, and Iran. Every time he was questioned, he called the question anti-Semitic. He used the word so often that it almost lost its impact. The world watched in horror as he mutilated, starved, and deliberately targeted thousands of people. Who will ever forget 6-year-old Hind stuck in a car, the dead all around her because of the relentless bombing? She was trying to make a desperate phone call when the IDF soldiers shot her in her tiny head. The child was used as target practice. Genocide. No end in sight. The Israel-Hezbollah conflict escalated significantly in 2024, and the current ceasefire deal remains fragile. America has poured over $1 billion into a tiny country on the other side of the globe. Trump said that if the hostages were not released, those responsible, Hamas, Palestine, will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Deadline, 20th of Jan 2025.
That's all about. So we're working very hard to get the hostages back.
Bring them home.
And as you know, January 20th is a very big day.
Yes, it is.
The day he takes office. Didn't he work out that this has got nothing to do with hostages? Hamas have tried to return the hostages over 20 times in 1 year. 2024, a year of war. That's a good lead into Trump's tsunami, I suppose. Kamala was useless and a bad loser too. America really had no choice. And as for Biden, how did he get that far? Creepy Joe pardoned the vagabond son Hunter this week after he promised his electorate he wouldn't. To be fair, I doubt he remembers what he said 5 minutes ago. We've seen him wandering around stages, walking into bushes, declaring that he is Mrs. Biden. Do you think Americans bought this Biden malarkey? I don't. The guys in the back room need to update that script. It's 2024. We aren't buying that garbage truck anymore. Trump's been hogging headlines like Zuma. He's had his earshot, prompting Americans to walk around with plasters on their ears, but then went to work at McDonald's. We were not sure whether to buy an apron or not. And who will forget, they're eating cats, they're eating the dogs. Bombs and blonde shells. This is where Trumpet is right now. He's hanging with the Goonies. Elon, RFK, and Joe Rogan. Musk. Another chop that has far too much press this year. He went rockets to the moon when he could feed a nation. He was pro-Palestinian until he went to Israel, and now he's in office. And in his words, it's called the dark MAGA of politics.
I'm not just MAGA. I'm dark Gothic MAGA.
A true Trump pet. Well, what else do you give a guy who has everything? And then there's RFK. I like him. He's gurgling truth out there, but occasionally he gets caught with a Mackie D in his hands for a photo op. 2024, shove it in the bottom drawer. We've had more courtroom TV than Judge Judy. There's a lot of anger, especially when we talk about a pastor with a panga. Senzo Tabu, aka Malema and Farm Killers. Liebenberg was absurd. 2024, we deserve more. A Gold Tap Award must be given to Edwin Sodi as the year was dominated by waterlessness in South Africa, water shedding, water restrictions, water throttling, all became another way of saying dry taps, day zero. Runner-up is the guy who forgot to turn on the tap at Joburg Water, leaving residents dry for 2 weeks. In another clockwise, anti-clockwise confusion, there was a chop who didn't fill up Joburg Gents Hospital water supply. They can store 11 million litres. Choppy waters. Miss South Africa stayed relevant when we discovered that Chidima, Our Miss South Africa wasn't ours at all. She was Nigerian. After an enormous Karen type of fuss, she was booted and ended up in the lead in Nigeria's Miss Universe. We didn't like that, so we tried to jeopardize her win by voting for a voluptuous competitor. And then our Miss South Africa, Mia LaRue, became the first deaf winner. See? You thought pageantry was dead. 2024, so much more. The Olympics began with a horrific opening and left the world hating wokeness. Despite it being a pitiful clickbait that deserved the hate, there were some pearlers. A shooting competitor from Turkey shot a perfect round with one hand in his pocket, spurred by a row with his wife. A wallaby breakdancer, Ray Gun, jumped around like a pet bloody kanga, mate. Breakdancing became a prominent Olympic sport. Is that even possible? And 2024, it was on the dance floor. Tatiana brought it home and Bayanda stole our hearts, but overall, Olympics 2024 was a terrible bore. When they said climate change, do you think they meant climate catastrophe? We saw the strangest weather. How can cyclones, tornadoes, and tremors be commonplace in May-South Africa? And then snow, so much snow that Durban beachgoers were building snowmen. We saw the best of humanity, gift to the givers, go from cataclysm to disaster, relentless in their pursuit to save South Africans. Thank you. We are helpless without you, GOG. Talking about cataclysmic, Putin just doesn't give a damn. He's on a mission, and if you dare step in the way, he will, quite literally, vaporize you. It's been quite handy being part of BRICS, or Putin would be terrifying us too. We kept the lights on like we promised, Vlad. Between Enoch budgets and Ramaphosa's magic, the lights have stayed on at Eskom. I say magic, I mean price increases. Isn't that called racketeering when we pay anything to keep our power source on? Racketeering is a South African speciality. From cold drinks to kidnapping, the nation has been stalked by this crime for generations, and recently it resulted in mass killings in Lusikisiki. Talking about stalking, Netflix produced a screamer called Baby Reindeer, and despite what Oscars say about Barbie and Oppenheimer, this docudrama terrified the daylights out of us. We were so obsessed with the stalker that we missed the real sex predator. Weinstein's charges were dropped. We still haven't seen Epstein's list. Almost 100 women came forward about Mohammed Al-Fayed, and MasterChef will never be the same again. And then there was the oil spill that was P. Diddy. Lock him up. Keep him there. Lock the door on 2024. See how I shut that story down there? Very mindful, very cutesies, very demure. Unlike racists in Pali, Roman Kabanak and Ronaldo Gous, it wouldn't be normal in South Africa if we didn't have a racist fallout, and Pretoria Girls' House certainly takes a ticket. That slave auction was horrendous. From spaza shops to taverns, our kids are often casualties. Even though the Inyumbeni Tavern case kicked off this year, we won't ever find out what happened to those kids. And now that killing children with consumer goods is now commonplace. Praveen passed, and I have such mixed feelings about a good man turned complicit. Is that a fair assessment? Good man turned complicit? I'll never forgive him for SAA, but I've also seen that man fight like a lion for justice. A true South African superstar is our Tyler, who has been in the spotlight both home and abroad. She's a legend, this chick. Music kept us tapping as Oasis reunited and definitely maybe brought back good memories, but at a shocking price tag. Few more big international stories and I'm out. They tried to sell Mpox to Africa. We didn't buy it. A media storm in the teacup where the real attention should have been on Sudan, where 60,000 people are dead and millions are starving. In a year of give and take, 2024 saw the unfathomable imprisonment of Imran Khan and the incredible fact that Julian Assange is free in my lifetime. If you want me to sum up 2024 in one story, it would be that banana that sold for $6.2 million. And finally, my personal favorite was how Cat Williams broke woke. And I'll leave you with his wise words. The truth don't need motivation. Another year, another diary. It's been surreal. Stay safe, drive sober, share love with someone who needs a hand this silly season. Peace out, my country. I'm Tanya Curry, and thank you for joining my column during 2024.